Welcome to the National Political Debates, brought to you by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Jamaica Public Service Company Limited, changing lives with their energy, and the D&G Foundation, here for Jamaicans, here for Jamaica. Tonight, we come to you live from the Faculty of Law at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. The final debate in the series focuses on leadership. Our moderator is Dervan Malcolm.
Good evening. Welcome to the final of 3 political debates organized by the Jamaica Debates Commission and staged live before an audience at the Faculty of Law on the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. The debates are intended to assist in identifying, clarifying and understanding the issues being presented in this general election campaign from the standpoint of the respective political parties. This evening's debate focuses on leadership. As is customary in television debates production, the audience is prohibited from applauding the debaters, except for now when we announce each debater. For the People's National Party, Mrs. Portia Simpson-Miller. And for the Jamaica Labour Party, Mr. Andrew Holness. Our panel of questioners are Dion Jackson Miller from the RGR News Center. Franklin McKnight from IRI FM and the North Coast Times. As a new feature for this debate, the third questioner is replaced by us taking a question from the audience. The questions to be posed by persons in the audience are their own and have only been reviewed by our other questioners this evening to ensure that they meet the same rules within which they are operating. I'm your moderator, Dervan Malcolm. The guidelines for tonight's debates have been previously agreed and are posted on the Debate Commission's website at www.jamaicadebatescommission.org. That's www.jamaicadebatescommission.org. The guidelines include questions being no longer than 30 seconds and each debater being allowed 90 seconds to respond to each question, with rebuttals being limited to 45 seconds. The panel's questions posed in tonight's debate are created solely by the journalists and are not influenced by the Jamaica Debates Commission in any way. You can also follow the debates on the Debates Commission's website, and you can send your comments to us on Twitter at our Jamaica Votes Twitter account. Arising from a coin toss earlier, Mrs. Portia Simpson-Miller of the PNP will make the opening statement, while Mr. Andrew Holness of the JLP will make the final of the 2 statements at the end of the debate. And now, the 2-minute opening statement from Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Good evening. Our country is in crisis. The economy is shrinking. Unemployment is increasing. It is now up to 12.3%. Poverty has doubled. Hopelessness is increasing under this government. We have to unite and work together to grow the economy. When we form the next government, we will expand educational opportunities at all levels, finance a national export strategy, place a special focus on SMEs, negotiate an extended fund facility with the IMS, focus on non-traditional sectors such as ICTs and the creative and cultural industries. During this debate, I look forward to providing more details on the Jamaica Emergency Employment Program and corruption, and certainly other programs of the People's National Party. Some of the successes of our administrations have been unprecedented expansion of infrastructure, roads, airports, seaports. We passed 12 consecutive IMF tests. We mobilized record level of foreign direct investment. In fact, my last year in office, when I was Prime Minister, unemployment was under 10%. We brought poverty from 30% to under 10%. The debt was 950 billion. Now it has grown to 1.6 trillion, an increase of almost 70%. We facilitated GDP growth of 3%. I presented the country.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Let us now hear Mr. Holness's 2-minute opening statement.
Good evening, friends. I am a product of independent Jamaica. I believe I was called to serve the people of my country, and I have dedicated my life to this. From the time of my youth, I have worked with and represented the people of Jamaica to improve the quality of their lives. Starting with my work in the voluntary sector to improve the lives of inner city children, to representing the people of my constituency in Parliament for 14 years, to being Minister of Education for the last 4 years, and now as your Prime Minister. I'm humbled and privileged to have had this opportunity, and I want to continue to serve you, the people of this great country, to fulfill our true promise and destiny. It is natural, inevitable, and indeed irresistible that new generations of leaders will emerge in any nation. This process of renewal strengthens and guarantees the continuity of the society, and when graciously handled, is a heritage of dignity that is passed between generations. Like many of you, I have been reflecting on the leadership change that has taken place in the last 3 months. That Jamaica should produce a post-independence leader on the eve of our 50th Jubilee is a providential alignment of opportunities and challenges. The real issue of this election is whether or not Jamaica will seize the moment, reaffirm this change, and step into our future with new generations of leaders. Tonight, in answering the questions, I will give insights into my leadership and into a shared vision.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Our first question tonight comes from Dion Jackson Miller of the RGR News Center. It will be directed to Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller, you mentioned the debt in your opening statement. Also, your manifesto on page 9 speaks about the, quote, vicious stranglehold of the national debt and says a clear, realistic plan for the improvement of the main debt ratios is needed. Please give us specific steps that your administration would take to get there.
Well, we will, upon being re-elected as government, move to economic growth and development, to get the economy to grow, to put people to work, and to bring investments into the country, both foreign investments as we work with our local investors to invest more into their country. We will also be looking at a number of plans so that we will be able to do so. One is to negotiate with the IMF to negotiate with the IMF an extended, we will, when we are returned to power, negotiate an extended fund facility. This will give us the space and will give us greater time to ensure stability of the economy that is now in shambles. It will also give us an opportunity to grow the economy as well as to create jobs. And we will be working with exporters to ensure that we put in place the kind of financing so that exporters in every category will be able to export so we can bring more foreign exchange into the countries, as well as looking at the BRIC countries to expand our reach in terms of trade as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Mr. Holness, your rebuttal.
I just wanted to point out very quickly that we are in an IMF arrangement which ends in May next year, and the country director has pointed out already that there can be no renegotiation of this present deal. I suspect what the leader of the opposition is saying is that they would go into another IMF deal after May, and maybe there might be need for that. But we have this present one, which we have to fulfill, and the government has already started doing that. As it relates to reducing debt, debt is a function primarily of...
Go ahead, Mr. Holness. Oh, you're finished? Okay.
You interrupted, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holness. Dion Jackson Miller has indicated that she has a follow-up question.
You predicate at least part of your answer on the issue of growth, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Just last week, though, the head of the IMF said that there is no country in the world that will be immune from the crisis we see not only unfolding but escalating. How does this affect your prediction for growth?
We're all aware of that. But we had serious challenges when I was Prime Minister. And when I left office, we had 3% growth. We did it before, and we can do it again. We can work to achieve growth and development for this country.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Your rebuttal, Mr. Holness.
You know, growth is not so much talk. Growth is serious action. It's about getting the investors to come here. It's about aligning the variables in the macro environment, which we have done in 4 years, which has PNP has tried to do it in 18. It was never successful. We have done that. The next phase of our growth strategy is to get the microeconomic variables aligned so that once you have a strong macro environment, the efficiency of markets can take.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. And now Franklin McKnight for his question to Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, for several months, the government in which you were a cabinet minister held up the extradition of Christopher Dudis-Coke. Do you accept that this hurt the country in many serious ways, and why should you and the JLP that formed the government not be punished by the voters for it?
I want to make something absolutely clear, that as it relates to the Manat issue, I was on the extreme periphery of that matter. I was, however, a member of a cabinet, and I cannot escape or deny the responsibility that comes with that. The Jamaica Labour Party and the former Prime Minister already admitted that the affair was not handled in the best way, and we have paid the consequence of that. In terms of being punished by the electorate, I think the electorate of Jamaica has advanced in such a way that they are able to look at genuine efforts being made by the party and by the government to redeem itself and to offer itself for further service to the country. I place my hands in the fate and judgment of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Your rebuttal, Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Well, Mr. Holness said he was not close to the situation. It cannot be true. He was a member of the then cabinet, and so he's a party and would have been a party to the decisions taken concerning the extradition that caused so much pain and hurt in this country. And it is as a result of bad management and political favoritism of the Prime Minister and members of his cabinet. None can escape this. The Prime Minister should never have inserted himself in the process in the first place. We have dealt successfully with extradition issues.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Our first question now comes from the audience. And the audience member holding number 6, please step up to the microphone and pose your question to Portia Simpson-Miller.
Good evening, Most Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller. Visiting from the Jamaican diaspora, all the way from California. Do you think it is time for Jamaica to move away from the Westminster model of governance?
I am in support of that, and People's National Party government, we will be looking at the head of Jamaica and looking at our constitution and the removal of the Queen as head of Jamaica so that we can have a Jamaican Queen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Rebuttal, Mr. Holness.
On approaching our 50th year, it is the opportune time to reflect on the nature of our government. The signals are mixed, but clearly it is time for us to establish truly our own independence.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. And now, Dion Jackson Miller, your question to Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, Jamaica has an international reputation for homophobia. What do you think of former Prime Minister Golding's statement that homosexuals were not welcome in his cabinet, and do you share that sentiment?
The challenge that Jamaica faces is that in the modern world, there are minimum standards of human rights which we must meet. And Jamaica has done so on all occasions. However, as a society, we have to determine what our civil rights are, which is slightly different. We have taken steps in our parliament with the Bill of Rights, which is an advance in the right direction. We are an open society, and the issues that are difficult, uncomfortable to discuss, as a society progresses, these issues are being discussed. People are entitled to their opinion, and as well as I am entitled to mine. But as leader of the country, I have to respect everybody's opinion and make sure that the institutions of freedom are well in place so that the debate can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Your rebuttal, Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Our administration believes in protecting the human rights of all Jamaicans. No one should be discriminated against because of their sexual orientation. Government should provide the protection. And I think that we should have a look at the Buggery law, and that members of parliament should be given the opportunity to vote with their conscience on consultation with their constituents. But for me, I do not support the position of the former Prime Minister, because people should be appointed to position based on their ability to manage and
Thank
to
you,
lead.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Dion Jackson Miller has indicated that she will now take her second follow-up question to Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, do you share the sentiment that you don't want any homosexuals in your cabinet?
My sentiments reflect the sentiments of the country. The Prime Minister has a discretion, but that discretion cannot be exercised in a vacuum.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Mrs. Simpson-Miller?
I certainly do not pry, or do I have any intention of prying in the private business of anyone. I would appoint anyone with the ability, the capacity, and the capability to manage in my cabinet.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Franklin McKnight, your question now to Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller, the Trafigura matter is before the courts now as a request of the Dutch authorities, who want statements under judicial supervision. But for us Jamaicans, would you as Prime Minister or leader of the opposition after the next elections agree for a commission of inquiry into the $30 million donation or contribution to help us decide once and for all whether there was corruption and who it points to in this entire affair?
I want to clarify one thing. The Dutch authorities did not come to Jamaica to investigate the Trafigura. The Dutch authorities were written to by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding and invited to come to investigate officials of the People's National Party. Not the Dutch authorities. It was on the invitation of the government that changed the law in Parliament to allow it to happen, although they claim in the extradition matter that they were protecting the rights of a Jamaican. For the People's National Party, to the governing party, we have no rights. Certainly, we have nothing to hide. And anything that can clear the air on Trafigura, which was a contribution to a political party, just like now in the elections, both parties are receiving contributions, I'm sure, from businesses, both overseas and locally, who would not want to be identified because they might fear victimization on the election of one party over the other party. And so I believe that the Trafigura issue was a contribution to the People's National Party. We have nothing to hide, and I would not be opposed to an inquiry into that matter, only if the government will also explain the maybe Johnson bribery.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson-Miller. Your rebuttal, Mr. Holness.
Well, there's several things. First of all, the accurate statement is that Trafigura, which is a Dutch company, attracted the attention of the Dutch government even before the Labour Party assumed office, and tried to get the hearing in Jamaica, but was not, because the PNP was still the government. When we became the government, we ensured that the investigation was possible. But then I find it very worrisome that the leader of the opposition would suggest that the government should not do what is required of it to meet its international obligations to investigate a matter of corruption. You are saying that because you're a political party, we should not have investigated.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. We now go back to the audience for another question, and the audience member. You had indicated a follow-up, Mr. McKnight? Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
Mr. Simpson-Miller, are you saying that you would authorize an inquiry only if it was tied to something else? Or are you saying now to the Jamaican people that as Prime Minister, I would authorize an inquiry, and as opposition leader, I would support it?
I have no difficulty at all supporting, or as Prime Minister, supporting an inquiry. Because the only thing that can come from the inquiry was that the contribution was to the People's National Party. And Trafigura raises some very important questions, and that is the financing of political parties. And that is an issue to be put on the table and to be discussed publicly.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson-Miller. Rebuttal, Mr. Holness.
I see really no need for a commission of inquiry. All that the leader of the opposition needs to do is to withdraw her claim in the court for the matter to be heard in private.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Now we take that question from the audience. Audience member with ticket number 8, please step up to the microphone and pose your question to Andrew Holness.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Holness. Mr. Holness, the fact that you have experience in only one government ministry for a period of only 4 years and absolutely no experience in foreign policy or interaction with any foreign leader, what makes you prepared to be Prime Minister of a country in crisis?
Well, it's a very good question. Firstly, my experience as a Minister of Education was one in which I had charge of the second largest ministry in the government. I had to deal with the largest public sector group in the government. But more than that, not just the size of the ministry, I was able to operate in a time of crisis, increase the services offered in education whilst my budget was being cut. I have not heard any complaints about a reduction in service or loss of teaching jobs. That is the ingenuity and creativity of a youthful mind, of a new generation of efficient thinking and management. I thank you for the question, but I would also point out that I have benefited significantly from the experience of others who have invested a lot of time and effort in me, not just in the political sphere, but all Jamaicans who have provided me with support and ideas. I don't claim it all on myself. I would also want to say that I believe, as I said in my opening statement, that I have a charge and a mission to do good for this country and to help this country fulfill its true potential.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Mr. Simpson-Miller, your rebuttal.
I come with 17 years of experience as a Minister of Government and then for a short time, Prime Minister. My track record is there. I am tested and I am proven. I have the ability and the skills, and my experience brought me to a number of international meetings, having to meet with international leaders, from prime ministers to presidents to kings. And so I know I have the ability to and can. It's not just about age, it's about the ability to lead and manage and the experience.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Now, Dion Jackson-Miller, your question to Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller, you would be aware that at least some of your critics question your intellectual capacity to lead. Over the past 4 years, for the most part, it's been Dr. Peter Phillips and Dr. Omar Davies leading the charge for the opposition in Parliament. Instead of now running ads trying to persuade the public of your leadership capabilities, why didn't you use the past 4 years of weekly parliamentary sittings to more effectively lead and engage in policy debates?
I certainly participated in the Parliament, but I am not a one-band person. I am the leader of the team, and I give my team the opportunity to perform and to participate. I do not believe in the Jamaican language, hogging the show. I believe that my team can best learn, particularly the younger ones, when they are able to stand on their feet, to speak to the issues in the Parliament, and to participate. That is how we are preparing the next generation of Jamaicans to take leadership of the various areas of the People's National Party and the various sections of the party.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Mr. Holness, your rebuttal.
Well, since it's a question on leadership, leadership is as leadership does. And if anyone wants to see what experience in leadership is, then we should examine achievement. And what I've tried to do in my short time is to be clear in the achievements, set goals and set targets, and build institutions that will remain after you have left the scene. I know that as a minister, I have put in place institutions that will change the education landscape and outlast me, a legacy for generations to come. I'm sure the leader of the opposition will point out her legacy.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Mr. Franklin McKnight, your question now for Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, though you have repeatedly said you want to tell the country the truth, you have wasted several opportunities to tell Jamaicans how bad our finances and economy are. Please use this opportunity to tell us what to expect in the next year of an administration to be run by you, and particularly
well, let's get to it quickly.
Medicine.
Let's get to it quickly. I think we've all spoken in generalities about what is coming in the future. And it has created some level of uncertainty, and with that uncertainty, fear. I personally am very certain about what I will be doing, and I have no fear of the future. The first thing we have to do is to confront the growing national debt. And in doing that, there are some reforms of the economy which we must undertake. The first reform is the tax system. Whenever the population hears taxes, immediately there is a fear. From the government's perspective, there is a fear of a social reaction. We see it happening in Greece and in other countries in Europe. We don't want that. So the first thing that we have already started to do is to engage all the key stakeholders to come up with a plan that will be fair and equitable and give everyone a voice in that plan. And we have started that. The first thing you will see happening next year is the tabling of a green paper on tax reform. The other thing that we have to do is confront our public sector in terms of size and its size relative to GDP, the wage bill. Whenever we talk about that...
Thank you, Mr. Holness.
We
Your
need time to do
rebuttal,
this.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
The Prime Minister spoke to the public sector transformation. It is not as simplistic as cutting jobs, and I give an example. in the public sector, we have 3 ministries that are employer of labor, of a portion of the labor force of all the ministries that is larger than every other. And that is, I will identify them, the Ministry of Education. Can you cut education, which is critical to the development of the country? Can you cut
Thank you,
health?
Mrs. Simpson-Miller. We will now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned.
The smiles on their faces mean more than just happiness. Since 2002, the JPS Early Childhood Nutrition Program has been supporting thousands of children across the island. The program now feeds 30,000 basic school students every day. With good nourishment, they're eager and able to learn. The JPS has links to communities that go well beyond wires and poles. Here, with a little help from JPS, early childhood students are getting a chance to shine.
Now this one is called All About Music.
Fulfilling hopes, creating dreams, and making a difference are at the heart of the Daniel Geddes Foundation. Through our Diageo Learning for Life skills training programs, over 1,800 Jamaicans now have a real chance of contributing to Jamaica's economic growth.
Upon being accepted, we learn a lot of things. Before, I thought I was just going to come and mix up some drinks and flip some bottles and stuff. But before we got to that, the meat of the matter, I learned personal development, working with colleagues and customers, communicating on the telephone instead of saying, hello, who is this?
Certified as bartenders, drapery makers, plumbers, tilers, waiters, housekeepers, customer service agents, and landscapers. Diageo Learning for Life graduates are empowered, competent, and able to give back to their families, communities, and Jamaica. The Daniel Geddes Foundation, here for Jamaicans, here for Jamaica.
It's all about the music.
The correct way to vote. Step 1. Find out exactly where you are to vote before Election Day.
Adrian Atkins.
Step 2.
Thank you very much.
Present your voter's identification card and follow the instructions of the presiding officer. Step 3. Once your identity has been verified and your name is found on the voters list, you will be issued a ballot paper. Step 4. Go behind the voting booth and mark an X with the pencil provided beside the candidate of your choice. Then, fold your ballot twice, leaving the flap out. Step 5. Give the ballot to the presiding officer. Then, dip your right index finger in the electoral ink and watch while your unopened ballot is put in the box. Step 6. Leave the vicinity in a peaceful manner.
Your vote is your voice. Make it count.
Redefine yourself. Live your dream. Walk in the steps of the leaders of the region. Be inspired. Study at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. Inspiring excellence, developing leaders.
The National Political Debates, presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission, in association with the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited, changing lives with their energy, and the D&G Foundation. Here for Jamaicans, here for Jamaica.
Welcome back to the final in the series of 3 political debates being facilitated by the Jamaica Debates Commission. If you're just joining us, welcome. We now go back to our audience to find audience member with the ticket number 12. Please step up to the microphone and pose your question to Mr. Andrew Holness.
Good evening, Mr. Holness. You stated that you have not received any complaints regarding your execution in the Ministry of Education portfolio. For the last 2 years, tertiary students have been petitioning the government for opportunities for employment and training as well as funding. Should you be elected to govern, are you prepared to provide tertiary graduates with at least 6 months on-the-job training in public institutions to assist in the employment pursuits? We've been told we have no job experience, but nobody wants to give us.
Oh, well, just to be clear, no complaints as it relates to services. Now, in terms of the program of funding tertiary education, that has been a challenged area for both administrations. In fact, the attempt to change the way in which we fund tertiary started under the previous administration. It didn't get very far because it is such a controversial and potentially explosive thing. But that is one of the things that we will have to confront with the new administration. We will have to change the way in which we fund tertiary education. As it is now, the nature of the funding limits the number of students who can access, and it also creates a problem in terms of the benefits that we can give to the students. We have, as a government, tried our best in a difficult circumstance to cut interest rates for tertiary loans, to extend the periods, and to give more grants. In fact, not many people know this, but we have increased the number of students being funded under the student loan, and we have increased the amount significantly. It is still not enough. So a fundamental change has to happen. As it relates, however, to experience, this is an issue that even I was confronted with when I left university.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Your rebuttal, Mrs. Simpson-Miller?
We are very concerned about the number of students dropping out of the tertiary institutions because they are not able to pay the tuition fees. My administration will expand the Students' Loan Bureau and review the requirements so that more students will be able to have access to the funding of their education.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Now, Dion Jackson-Miller will pose a question to Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Mr. Simpson-Miller, whatever the problems with the Jamaica Development Infrastructure Program, JDIP, it's a road project which does create jobs. So doesn't your proposal then to divert some money from JDIP to fund your Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, JEEP, isn't that really just shifting jobs around rather than creating new jobs?
The JDIP program, so much funds have been wasted under the JDIP program. Take, for example, the millions of dollars being spent on one road in Cristiano. If we take 25% of the funds from JDIP, we're not going to be interfering with the budget. We're just going to be transferring funds to deal with infrastructural programs such as the cleaning of our gullies, reforestation, our riverbeds, how we deal with them, how we prevent in the event of a hurricane or a storm, that we protect property and lives. And so it is not just about spending that money carelessly. And the G program, I heard Mr. Holness referring to it as crash program. It's not a crash program. There are several elements to the JEEP that we will be able to speak to later on, perhaps in the debate when the questions arise. But certainly, we can get some money from JEEP in consultation with the Chinese, of course, and I'm sure the relationship we have with them, we would be allowed to.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Your rebuttal, Mr. Holness.
And the philosophy of this new government and new governance is that employment must be generated from the private sector by investments. Investments give sustainable employment. We cannot in any way countenance any form of welfare employment. We cannot afford it at this time. That such a proposal could be made shows absolutely clearly that the opposition does not understand the dilemma in which the country finds itself. The JDIP program is already doing what you suggest in terms of fixing our rivers. Part of JDIP is river training.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Now, Franklin McKnight will put a question to Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, a large part of Jamaica's population continues to live in poverty or on the edge of it. What do you see as the main cause of that situation, and what is the main thing that you would do to radically change Jamaica's prospects?
Let me put it clearly. I believe we can end poverty in Jamaica. Poverty has 3 pillars. The first is lack of education. We must continue, as administrations before this one has done, and we will do with greater intensity. We must increase access to education and make it universal. Once you lift the standard of knowledge in the society, you will create capital that will unleash the productive and creative nature of this country. You must give people access to amenities, in particular health, which is why our policy of free health care will not change. That is power to the people. The third and important pillar of poverty is income. Income means employment. And the government's new thrust now is to create an economic environment where businesses can invest. We have to make Jamaica investor-friendly, and we make no apologies for that. That is the only way we're going to grow the country while managing the debt. There is no other solution to the problem, and the opposition knows this, which is why they have not presented a credible alternative. Indeed, all the international financial agencies have said to both the government and the opposition, you must pursue the program. The program
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Your rebuttal, Mrs. Simpson-Miller?
I believe that job creation is critical in this country. We're in a crisis. People are starving. Women cannot send their children to school. And I believe that we need to ensure employment for our people. And my administration will be doing everything. Our manifesto speaks to our program of employment that we will embark on. At the same time, any sensitive government, any government sensitive to the needs of the people, will put an emergency program in place to provide gainful employment.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. We now go back to the audience for another question, which will be posed to Mrs. Simpson-Miller, the audience member holding ticket number 7. Please step up to the microphone and pose your question to Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Good evening, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. How is the People's National Party different and better than the Jamaica Labour Party, since both parties have been accused of corruption, bribery, mismanagement, and such like?
The People's National Party is different because we've put in place a number of institutions to deal with corruption. I'm very strong in terms of fighting corruption and will not tolerate any form of corruption in a People's National Party government. And that's why when I'm returned to power as Prime Minister, I will ensure the strengthening of these institutions like the Office of the Contractor General and all the institutions having to investigate corruption and deal with corruption when they are reported. And I am sure if the public, members of the public, work with any government and report corruption wherever they are identified, we will be able to deal with it. I will be very firm and strong on corruption. I do not believe that we should allow anyone to corrupt the system of government. And that's why consultation is so important, and bringing people into the heart of government and governance in this country so that they will feel comfortable to communicate with their government and their leaders. Thereby we will get more information.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Mr. Holness, your rebuttal.
I find this statement by the leader of the opposition almost incredible. On the one hand, refusing to have Trafigura aired publicly in the courts, but yet saying that we are a transparent party. The difference between the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party is that we are open and transparent. We stand up and face up to the errors that we make We apologize and we lay it on the table for the public to judge. That's a major difference in terms of how we have operated as a party and as a government.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Dion Jackson Miller has a question now for Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, on page 13 of your manifesto, you promise a constitutional provision establishing core ministries and limiting the number of additional ministries. Until any such provision is in place, which could take years or decades, would you commit to reducing the size of your cabinet, and if so, by how many ministers?
Dion, I am already thinking about that. It is a difficult task. Difficult because of the things that I want to accomplish in a new government. But I've always maintained that it is not necessarily the size of the government, it is really the capacity of the ministers. And therefore, I have to look very closely on the ministers that are selected to see the capacity and the carrying load that they can manage, and then that will determine what the right size of the cabinet will be.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. Your rebuttal, Mrs. Simpson-Miller?
I don't know what transparency Mr. Holness is talking about. Because in terms of corruption, as Minister of Labor, I was the one who ensured and supported the investigation of a former Minister of Labor that went to jail as a result of corruption. And so I don't know what transparency you're talking about, because I am sure that as a Minister of Government and Prime Minister, I did everything I could to curb corruption in my government. And as a minister, my record is there. It is clear. A Minister of Government went to jail, a former minister, for corruption in Jamaica.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Mr. Franklin McKnight now has a question for Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller, your party is resting a great deal of its economic and social programs, should it come to office, on the renegotiation of several agreements, including with the IMF, the Chinese over JDIP, and the Jamaica Public Service. How long do you believe it would take to complete those negotiations, and what would happen to the country in the interim?
I intend for it to happen between our first and second week in government. It will not take long. We have a very good relationship with, for example, China. When it was not fashionable for countries in our region to establish relationships with countries like China, we were there with China. As a matter of fact, we supported and continue to support the One China policy. I'm sure the Chinese will meet with us urgently our first week in office. And I'm sure if we call upon the public service, certainly with our shares, we will get an early meeting with the Jamaica Public Service. I don't see us having a problem dragging out what we're talking about for very long. My government will be a government of action, not talk, work.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Your rebuttal, Mr. Holness.
As the Prime Minister of the country, I'm very reluctant to renegotiate contracts. Contracts are the most certain things you can find in business and also in international relations. One has to be very careful how we make these pronouncements. They send a bad signal to investors and countries wanting to do business and have deeper relations with Jamaica. So I really am very nervous to hear the pronouncements of the People's National Party about renegotiating contracts, especially those that have to do...
Thank you, Mr. Holness. As part of the format agreed for this debate, each debater is allowed to pose one question to their opposite number. 45 seconds are allowed for the answer, followed by a 30-second rebuttal. Mrs. Simpson-Miller, please go ahead and ask your question of Mr. Holness.
Mr. Holness, the General's audit of the JDIP project was damning, one which led to the resignation of your Minister of Transport and Works, Mr. Mike Henry. As a senior former senior cabinet member and leader of government business, do you have the moral authority to fix a problem which you, Mr. Holness, helped to create?
That question betrays a misunderstanding of the role of the leader of government business. As a leader of government business, my role is merely to order the business of Parliament. I have no control over the ministers. And in every instance that questions were asked of JDIP to the relevant minister, the appropriate procedures were followed in Parliament, including asking the Speaker of the House to ask the House itself, the full membership, for extensions. I can take no responsibility for the not answering of questions. However, as a cabinet and as a Prime Minister,
thank you,
it is unquestionable that I have taken action in this matter.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller, your response, please.
Here again, Mr. Holness, you are misleading the people of Jamaica. You are neither a strong nor decisive leader. I am disappointed in you. That is why I led the walkout of Parliament. When the matter was raised in the Standing Finance Committee, you could have stopped Mike Henry. You did not. You could have stopped the corruption. You did not. You could have taken a different position from Mr. Bruce Golding.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Your time is up. Mr. Holness, it's now your turn to ask Mrs. Simpson-Miller a question.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller, the Trafigura incident happened. You weren't ready, forgive me.
I'm ready.
Okay. The Trafigura question, the Trafigura matter happened just about the time of your ascendancy to leadership of the People's National Party. The funding, it is said, went to someone, ostensibly your campaign manager. Did you benefit, and did your ascendancy to the presidency of the People's National Party benefit from the Trafigura funds?
Ascendancy of the People's National Party, I don't know what you're talking about. Ascendancy, because we lost that election. So how could we ascend if we lost the election? My ascendancy to the presidency of the People's National Party. Yes, we got a contribution from Trafigura, I was told. And when the matter was raised, I gave instructions immediately that the money should be sent back to Trafigura. And my trusted leaders in the party indicated to me that my instructions were carried out.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Mr. Holness, your response?
You consistently say that the Trafigura matter is merely a political contribution, and that it may be. The only challenge is that it is a political contribution from a foreign company. And whilst in Jamaica, the matter may not be illegal, it is illegal in another jurisdiction for which we have certain obligations and relations. And we would have to facilitate that jurisdiction in investigating locally.
Thank you. We now go to closing statements. Mrs. Portia Simpson-Miller of the People's National Party will go first, based on the earlier coin toss decision. Mrs. Simpson-Miller.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, amidst all that has been said here tonight, our country remains in crisis. The economy continues to shrink. Unemployment is increasing. It is now up to 12.3%. Poverty has doubled. Hopelessness is increasing under this government. Our only option as a people is to unite and work together to grow the economy. When we form the next government, our priorities will include the expansion of educational opportunities at all levels, the financing of a national export strategy, placing a special focus on SMEs, negotiating an extended fund facility with the IMF, and focusing on non-traditional sectors such as ICTs and the creative and cultural industries. This is not the time for a government that requires a learning curve. To address the crisis we all face, this country must choose an experienced and accomplished leader, the best team to rescue Jamaica and to restore the hope. A leader and a team that you can trust. A leader and a team with a heart. A team that will put Jamaica and Jamaicans at the heart and the center of governance and government. A team that will balance the books while we balance people's lives. We have done it before. We will do it again. And I want to say that we believe in consultation and we will be in constant dialogue with the population.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpson-Miller. Mr. Andrew Holness of the Jamaica Labour Party will now make his closing statement for tonight's debate. Mr.
Recently,
Holness?
I was speaking to some university students, and the conversation made me realize that an entire generation of Jamaicans have grown up only knowing depressed social and economic environment. The political process has not so far inspired and in some cases frustrated to the point where our young people almost expect that poverty is a permanent part of our society, that our roads will always have potholes, that only some children will get quality education, only the rich will get justice, interest rate, crime, unemployment, electricity, and our debt will remain high, corruption will reign, and our leaders can't or won't do anything about it. I'm part of that generation, and I understand the frustration because deep inside each and every one of us is that seed of hope that Jamaica can do well. When Usain Bolt and other athletes brought home gold from the Olympics, it lifted our spirits and we all wanted to share in that accomplishment. I have seen glimmers of hope in our economy and society. Murders have declined significantly. Interest rates are down to single digits. Action is being taken to stamp out corruption. More children than ever before are getting access to quality education and health care. And now that we have stability in our economy, the glimmers of hope can be turned into the flame of prosperity for all. I believe we can do it. I believe we can end poverty. I believe we can have universal education. I believe we can have a world-class infrastructure. I believe we can have a disciplined, loving, and caring society. I believe in Jamaica. I believe in you. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Holness. That concludes the final of 3 debates. Our debaters tonight were Mrs. Portia Simpson-Miller of the People's National Party and Mr. Andrew Holness of the Jamaica Labour Party. In the spirit of the debates, we'll now ask our debaters to greet each other.
Fine.
A special thanks to the University of the West Indies Mona campus, the Mona School of Business, the UWI Faculty of Law, and the UWI Marketing and Communications Office for hosting us this evening. On behalf of our production team, funding partners, and the Jamaica Debates Commission, I'm Dervan Malcolm. Good evening.